2020's been rough. Wildfires, Kobe's passing, the stock market crash, Beirut's explosion, murder hornets, and of course, COVID-19. Yet, while all these terrible events were happening, on one small corner of the internet, the sneaker market has been thriving. It's been a very interesting year for sneaker economics. Pretty much everyone I spoke to before the pandemic really hit was predicting that the sneaker market would crash, but if anything, we've only seen it thrive. So without further ado, here's 5 items I'll be carrying with me into 2021 in the hopes of seeing a profit. Number 5. The Yeezy Glow in the Dark. These famously released in May 2019 in the stupid hours of the morning around 4 AM if I remember correctly. I think I got these pairs manually back then, as the only Adidas bot I had was Adisplash, which at this point was becoming less and less reliable, and is of course now completely obsolete. Sadly, Splashforce and other bots back then weren't really on it with Demandware like they are now, and so it was a bit trickier to get a good setup going. Also, the proxy options were pretty trash at the time. So if you look at the StockX chart on this, it's been a bit of a bumpy ride, seeing spells of ups and downs over time, and if you look towards the run up to Christmas in 2020, there is an outlook of growth which might carry on into 2021. The only thing really going with this shoe is that it's just so unique, and that it's a glow-in-the-dark Yeezy, and I'm pretty sure it only released on Adidas as well, so there was an element of scarcity about this pair. On the flip side, it's an absolute abomination of a shoe, and whoever at Adidas gave the go-ahead for this pair should have been fired on the spot. To conclude, the shoe itself is trash, but it being so unique and different compared to the rest of the 350 range, I think there is potential for long-term growth. But overall, I'm not counting on seeing huge gains on this. Number 4. Supreme and the North Face Liberty collab. Everyone knows Supreme isn't what it once was, but the North Face collaborations have always had a special place in the heart of Supreme enthusiasts. This collaboration in particular was one of the nicer ones to release in recent years. On the whole, Supreme tends to go down in value over time and has become a quick flip rather than a long hold. Supreme North Face, however, has always had a certain aura about it, and I do feel that like cheese, it will mature over time. Thankfully, I'm only holding a couple of these, and so I'm not too bothered with where they go, but I'd certainly hope to see some growth in the long run. I think what's interesting to note is that when Supreme have released a less desirable collab with North Face, we can sometimes see a price bump in previous collections, as people who are hoping for a nice fresh collab decide to instead buy one of the older, more attractive jackets. If we look at the chart, we can see a very bumpy ride, with an early peak around the time it initially dropped, to a more recent peak in November 2020, where it hit $727. It will certainly be interesting to see where it goes in 2021, as we move into the spring where mountain jackets get more popular in Europe. Number 3. The Jordan 1 Royal Toes. Yes, I know it took us to number 3 to finally get a shoe which was actually released in 2020, but you know the drill. Jordan 1 drops, Jordan 1 cheap, wait 3 months, Jordan 1 nice profit. This pair in particular with the white body and the blue top has a lot of potential to blow up, and I can see this eventually getting to numbers we've seen with other Jordans, although probably not as quickly, and here's why. These Jordans released only a few months after the Obsidians, and people quite quickly decided that the Obsidians looked better, felt better, and there was more hype surrounding them. I do think that if Nike released these before the Obsidians, we would have seen them shoot up earlier, and profits would likely have been stronger. But also bear in mind, this drop was basically the day old Foot Locker EU regions died, and have never been the same since, so for this reason I think the whole of Europe just passionately hates this shoe. Anyway, so if we look at the charts, we can see very steady growth over time, and what should be a continuation of this growth over time. I do expect there to be a much higher rate of growth, which could be due to a celebrity wearing the pair, or Jordan dropping some weak ones over the next year or so, which might lead people to return to previously dropped pairs, as we've seen with Obsidians and other models which released in 2019. Number 2. Air Jordan 1 Court Purples, 2020. This was the cousin of the Royal Toes, but I just have memories of literally everyone hitting pairs of these. I remember using trash proxies on Foot Locker EU for these and still hitting like 20 pairs. The issue with this pair is that they're basically competing with the late 2018 Air Jordan 1 Court Purples. And the thing is, the 2018 pair looked a lot better with the black accents on the upper. They're also better quality, and they had nothing to compete with in contrast with the 2020 version, which was living under the shadow of the 2018s. Having said this, the chart tells us a story of strength with a slow but firm increase in value over time, and I think going into 2021, we should see a similar story to the Royal Toes, but I've listed these ones higher than the Royals purely because at the time of making this video, they are worth slightly more. Number 1. Jordan 1 Obsidians. I've already mentioned these like 20 times in the video, so it was only fitting that I dedicated the number 1 spot to this pair. I actually bought a few of these pairs from resellers straight after the initial drop, as I just felt they'd go up, and lo and behold, they have. Honestly, I can only see these going up. The quality of Jordan 1s since these released has deteriorated significantly, and if you've ever compared them to any pair of the 2020 Jordans, you'll understand why. The new ones just feel so plasticky, and I'm pretty certain they changed factory for some reason. The chart on these is pretty interesting as well, and it reflects heavily on what I just said about the quality of the 2020 Jordans. In March 2020, we saw the end to the decline of the value in the Jordan 1 Obsidians, and what is basically the beginning of its rise. This is also around the time the 2020 Court Purples and Royal Toes released, and that's a pretty interesting coincidence. So yeah, we're now entering 2021, and the value of these is now hovering around the $500 mark, which is pretty good foreshadowing for the future. The rate at which it's increased between March and August 2020 is insane, and I think we'll see some further growth going forwards. And before I finish, I think it's important to mention a wildcard shoe, which I had to add to my list but doesn't really count for me because they are a personal pair, and that is the Travis Scott Dunks. I think it goes without saying that we'll see these rise for as long as the dunk hype continues, and probably beyond, to be honest, as they're just such a special pair. They ticked all the boxes when they released, in that you got a famous rapper collab, they're super limited, and they look good on foot. Although we may see dunks get less hyped in 2021 due to the expected increase in stock numbers for dunks, I do see these carrying momentum and increasing in value until eventually levelling off, as we've seen with some other special pairs. So those are the items I'm going to be holding into 2021. Do you agree with my predictions? If you do, let me know down below, and also let me know what you're hoping to see increase in the next year. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.